Good morning, Huntsville. Welcome into episode number 3 as we are moving right along here on a Wednesday, and always a joy to bring you this show. We are live here in beautiful downtown Huntsville on the square from our studio, sponsored by Elliott's Jewelers. Our good friend Paul Ali right next door to us at the gallery. If you need custom framing, photography, Paul Ali is your guy here in Huntsville. I'm Rob Hipp. A joy and a privilege today to be joined by our Walker County Commissioner of Precinct 3, Bill Daugette. Bill, good to see you. How have you been, my friend?
I've been awesome, Rob. I'm excited to be here today.
You know, it's funny. Earlier, we were going to experiment with the green screen today, and we had this beautiful sunrise background, blue bonnets, Texas flag. I mean, it was everything Huntsville, Texas.
Absolutely.
And then it was my fault because, Bill, I forgot to tell you, I was thinking about the green screen, and you wore – it's not a green shirt, but it's a little bit – it's a little bit green.
It's close enough to green that became amazingly invisible when we turned the green screen on, and I was a floating head. So it was awesome. So usually, to quote, who was it, Reagan, I'm the government and I was here to help.
That's right.
You had the green screen and I was here to make sure it worked exactly right, and it did.
It did work well.
It did work well.
And Bill, good to have you. You know, I talk about so many great people in this community. I wanted to start by just thanking you for your service. You know, you're very busy with the county. You do a lot of great work as our county commissioner. There's a lot of things that you got to oversee. We're going to dig into that today. So normally these interviews kind of 10 or 15 minutes, but you're always so fun to talk to. I said, well, just hop you on for 45 minutes to an hour. So we'll highlight all the good things happening in Walker County, and we'll educate the folks out there. You know, this is not a political show, but we do want to bring forth things that people need to know about what's happening in the county. But before we start talking that kind of shop, what have you been up to? How's life been for you? I missed you guys for 10 months, so it's I joke around and say if everybody would have been mean, I would have never came back. But you guys are so nice.
That's awesome. You were only here for a short time before you went to North Dakota, but we kept in touch after you left. I think that says a lot about you to me, and you came back to our community, which says a lot to me again about you coming back to us. But it says a lot about our community also. It's just a great place to be here, and I've been here since February 10th, 1980. It's funny that I just remember that date of when I got here. That's how life-changing it was to come here from California, where my friends still call it the land of fruits and nuts. But I got here and I've raised my family here. My kids are all born here, and it's treating me very well. The city of Huntsville, Walker County, East Texas in general has just been awesome for me and just given me just a blessed life.
There's a lot of good people. I'm going to joke, so don't get offended, but Bill came, what year was it, 1980?
Yeah.
So he came from California before it was cool to come from California.
Exactly right.
And I got a lot of good friends from California, so I'm giving you a hard time this morning.
Loved Southern California. It's beautiful out there. It's you look out there now, it's a different world than when I was out there. Like I told you before we started, I had a paper route when I was 14, and I got on a bike at 4 o'clock in the morning and rode through 10 or 12 neighborhoods throwing newspapers, and then came back home and collected door to door. Had a wallet full of money from people, and it's different now. You can't do that now, but back then you could. And we played baseball at the school and stuff like that. It was just a great experience out there. But I got out here, and the culture was amazingly different. I talk way too fast still for East Texas. It's funny, if you don't mind me wandering here a little bit. I will.
No, that's what it's about.
Some folks I talk to that have been in East Texas their whole life, I will start a conversation and give them like a good 10-minute Bill Daugette monologue, which I'm kind of famous for. And then they get done and they're just kind of looking at me, and they'll be like, "Where are you from?" And I'll know that my entire 10-minute monologue was completely ignored because they knew I wasn't from here, and they're trying to figure out where I was from. So I have to tell them, "Yes, I'm not from here. Yes, I'm from California." "Oh, I knew it." And then let me just repeat everything I said.
Let's just reset it. We're at in Southern Cal. You said SoCal, right?
SoCal, yeah. I was actually in San Bernardino, about 40 miles east of Los Angeles, in the beautiful San Bernardino Valley. Orange groves, avocado fields. When I was out there, and it was just gorgeous. My stepfather that was in the Air Force, and the Norton Air Force Base was out there, and we got transferred there in 1965. So we, like I said, we lived out there until 1979, when, funny enough, my mom had come to visit my aunt, and actually went to visit my grandmother, who had a health issue. And then a hurricane blew into the Gulf. This is crazy how God works. This
Yeah.
is funny. Anyway, she couldn't get an airplane out of Mobile back to California, so she drove back to Houston where my aunt lived. And at that time, the Houston area was exploding with oil field stuff. Everything was just blowing up. All you had to do was be a warm body. They would put you on something in the oil field. So they're like, come on out, because California was slumping at that time. So me and my brother hopped in my mother's. Once again, when I was 18, he was 17. We hopped in my mother's Toyota Corolla and drove from Rialto, California, San Bernardino, California, to Conroe, Texas at 19, 18 years old, and just stayed.
Never looked back.
Never looked back.
And you've only been here for, you said 19, you were lying, because you've only been here for 2 years. You're going on about 22 now, Bill.
That's just barely it. Yeah.
Well, it's a great story. I had a chance to visit. Again, we're talking to Bill Daugette this morning, our Walker County Commissioner in Precinct 3. Appreciate his time being here. And Brenda, by the way, Brenda Basshooker already chiming in this morning, and she said, we know Bill got here as fast as he can.
I did.
And she's saying, I'm thankful to live in this great town, to be born and raised here, and to have family close. And then she said, I love Huntsville, Texas. Love that, Brenda. Thanks for joining us this morning here on Good Morning Huntsville. But I went down to, I was at a broadcasting conference, Bill, about 4 years ago, trying to figure out, hey, what are the next steps in my life? And, sometimes we get on that path of trying to figure out, and that's okay. You can be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old and still trying to figure things out. As long as you're getting off the couch and moving, it's all right.
Absolutely.
And I went down to outside of San Diego, Del Mar.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Beautiful area. That's where the conference was. There was only 10 of us. It was a real small conference, so we could be, very just in a very small group setting to encourage each other in the broadcasting world. And it worked out to be one of the life-changing moments for me while I was down there, because I was taught some advice that I believe to this day still helped me get that gig that I had with Sam Houston, here a few years ago. But where I'm going at with that was so beautiful. The weather, I thought it was going to be burning up there. And it was in the 60s, and we're in the middle of the summer. I had no idea.
Right. Absolutely. San Diego, I think it's like number 1 or 2 in the country as far as best overall weather. I had a friend, Mark Lotes. He's still a good buddy of mine. He lives up in Dallas area now. We've been friends since junior in high school. I was devastated when he packed up and moved to San Diego. He went down there to go to college, and he would call and be like, it's 105 in Southern California with 40-mile-an-hour Santa Ana winds. I was like, how you doing down there? He's like, well, it's 78 and sunny. I'm going to go to the beach every day. Every day. So it's awesome. San Diego is beautiful. And back in those days, you could go to San Diego and take a day trip into Tijuana and hit the markets and shop and then come back home. And it was just part of that SoCal lifestyle.
When I think of San Diego, Bill, I think of SDSU, San Diego State University. Right. And when I was preparing for broadcast and researching, and just got back actually from Fargo, and Jerica joining us. She is actually joining us from Fargo, North Dakota. Made some great friends up there, and she's saying good morning. I don't know if I can say this, Jerica, here in Huntsville, but she said good morning from Fargo, North Dakota, and Bison Country.
Oh my gosh!
So we won't talk too much NDSU Bison up here, but we'll still give you a shout out. But
you gotta respect who they are.
That's right.
And the machine that they have become up there. We have to hate them because of this orange hat right here. By law, we have to do that. But if we were in that position, we would love to be hated for being in that position. So we got to give them what they got.
It's okay, because we both had, and the reason I brought this up, because you were talking about San Diego, and I was thinking of SDSU, San Diego State University.
Right.
But every time I was doing research, and I'd type in SDSU, of course, for those silly rabbits down there in South Dakota.
Right.
What would happen is San Diego State University would come up. So I can say this, Jerica, and anybody else that's joining us out there that may be a North Dakota person and a Bison fan, that we do have a mutual enemy, and it is South Dakota State University.
There you go. There you go.
All I will say, though, is we beat them in the national championship. Now, I called that game, but, it was a lot of fun back in the day. So
absolutely. And it's funny because my buddy Mark, he went to San Diego State University, so he was sky high in the Final Four when they made the finals this year. And, of course, appropriately devastated when they got blown out at the end. But he had a nice run for a little bit. So
a lot of fun. Well, this morning, again, thanks for joining us. Some folks already chiming in. Let us know you're out there. We'd love to hear from you. Keep those comments coming. Let us know what you're thankful for this morning as well. We talk a lot of inspiration on this show, and we always want to highlight all the good things that are happening here in the community. I'm going to mention that every single time. But, again, joined today by Bill Daugette, our Walker County Commissioner in Precinct 3. I want to just do a quick biography. Normally I jump right in, but Bill's always so much fun and a great storyteller that we're just going to free flow this bad boy today.
Let's do it.
But Bill, been a resident of Precinct 3 since 1980 and 81, elected commissioner. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. This was your official biography. So whoever's the biography writer
I
for
think
the
it was
county.
me, so if it's wrong, it's me.
All right, perfect. Elected commissioner in November of 2016.
Yes.
So we're still on the right track. You and your wonderful wife, Debra, proud grandparents to 6 grandchildren.
They are, and they're awesome. Oh, my God, grandkids are so great.
Active member of several groups and civic organizations that make Walker County the wonderful place it is today. Prior to being elected, Bill worked 26 years at the City of Huntsville as the director of public utilities. I didn't know that.
I did. I started off January 23rd, 1983, as a meter reader at the City of Huntsville. And actually, a good friend of mine, Tish Humphrey, you know Tish, was a neighbor, lived right across the street. Her and Russell lived right across the street from me. And there was a job opening in the meter reader department. And at that time, I was working at a little shoe store called Fava Shoes, where the H-E-B parking lot is now. And so I got into the city as a meter reader, and it just bit me that kind of work is what I wanted to do, you know. So I did that for like a year, and then just as openings came up, the food chain, I was always the first guy there, the last guy to go home. Worked all the overtime they wanted, and positions kept coming up, and I was fortunate enough to become the director of public utilities and served that for several years up until I left there in 2008. It was an awesome organization, had a lot of fabulous people who do. And it's the same thing at the county. You know, you don't do what you do in those organizations for the paycheck. You know, it keeps the lights on and the bills paid, but you do it because you just dig it because it's good for the community, and it makes you feel good inside to help other people. And that's just so I just stuck with it. You know, with the public service stuff with the city, and then when I left there and went to the city of Conroe for 5 years, had a lot of fun down there. You know, it was funny though. When I went to Conroe, I was like, that's the big city down there. Conroe's just going to have all this advanced stuff. When I got down there, I was like, I'm like, how come y'all don't do this? Well, we just never have. So I brought this Huntsville stuff to Conroe. And I'm still great friends with a lot of the guys down there, and a lot of the changes that to me were just routine things were like life-changing events to them down there. It was great. I was like, y'all are Conroe. You know, you're 85, 90, 100,000 people, whatever the heck you are, and we're at that time 35,000 people. And so that was fun. And then when I came here to the county, I just, you know, you talk about you don't know what you want to do when you grow up or whatever. I got elected to this job when I was 56 years old, you know, and it's what I want to do right now. I'm not sure it's what I want to do when I grow up. You know,
I love it.
But that's what I do. It's just so much fun. And I tell a story. I was working in a neighborhood, and a sweet, and I'll use the term affectionately, a sweet little old lady was sitting on her front porch, and we were working in doing drainage work, and her little culvert had holes in the top of it, and it just wasn't working right. And I went and talked to her. I was like, "Look, I'm doing this ditch. You know, you gotta get a culvert here." And she just started crying. And I was like, so we sat on the porch. I was like, you know, what's going on? Well, her husband was ill, and she was a caretaker, and you know, they just flat couldn't afford it. So I said, let me go see what I got. So I went to my yard, and we had an old one that we had taken out of somebody else's driveway. We took it back out there, and it was pretty close to fitting. It wasn't perfect, pretty close to fitting, but we got to work. And she just gave me the biggest hug. You know, like I needed that. And I was like, you know, that's why I do this. Just stuff like that. So whether it's a single person or the 75,000 people that live here, if you can help somebody a little bit, you can't put a price on that. You can't put a paycheck on that.
I'm going to go off on a tangent here. You may not get this, Bill, and it's okay. Many people watching probably won't. We'll probably see our viewership go down, by the way, when I mention this. For some reason, I've been a big fan. I don't watch a lot of cartoons. I'm like, you know, I just don't. When I was a kid, I really didn't, and that's where I'm going. But there was one cartoon that always stuck to me, and it was The Simpsons. I don't know why, when I was growing up.
Oh, my God, my kids loved that show.
My uncle told me don't watch. He didn't like me watching it. My dad didn't like me watching it, but I watched it. And it's still the longest-running cartoon, still creating episodes.
Right.
But when you were talking about Conroe and Huntsville, I grew up in Georgetown. Mm-hmm. Well, Round Rock was always the big city. And so I always, in The Simpsons, it was Springfield, which was like the Georgetown back then. And then there was Shelbyville, which was the city with all the glamour and all the things. So they would always make fun of each other. And and Georgetown to that, that's kind of how I saw it. I would always say Round Rock's the Shelbyville to Georgetown, so because they had all the glitz and the glamour, and they had the bigger population. So when you were mentioning that about Conroe, I kind of laughed, and I was thinking that in my head, like, man, that's it. Back in the day, that's what I thought when I was in Georgetown. I thought Round Rock was the big show.
Isn't that funny how that is? And when I go to Riverside, that's one of the cities in my precinct. Huntsville's the big city. They're the big city down the road that's gobbling up everything all around it. And so, I've become super friends with their mayor and their city secretary and out there. And but it was funny when I was talking about stuff in the county. Their concern was, how was Huntsville going to impact them? So I guess it's scalable. Riverside to Huntsville and Huntsville to Conroe, and then you come over and you find out there's more of them, but we're doing the same dang thing. We all take care of our people. We try to scrape by and do what's right for our people, whether it's the 800 people in Riverside or the 40,000 here in Huntsville or 100 bazillion in Conroe. I don't even know what that number is now. I know it's just big down there. So it's the same thing, just on a big scale.
And you don't have to worry too much about Conroe because they're not in Walker County.
That is true.
But you still communicate. You got friends there.
I do. I've got several good friends that I keep in touch with, and we Facebook back and forth a lot. They were good folks. They were just like folks up here. They'd worked there a long time. I knew their director down there, Dean Towery. It was really how I ended up in Conroe. After I graduated SAM in 2011, my wife's like, time to go to work. I told her, wait a minute, I'm retired from the city. I went and got this fancy degree from SAM, and we had bought some rental property, and I'm like, I'm ready to kind of prop my feet up. She's like, oh no, you got to do something. So they had a water quality or water conservation director, administrator, something in Conroe. And I went down to talk to Dean, who had been a good friend of mine. He was the director for 30-something years down there. And I went and talked to him about the job. And he's like, well, we have a guy down here that's been doing it voluntarily, and it's a part-time job, which is really all I wanted. I thought I could get by. He said, hey, I've got a job, but it's just part-time. He said, it was part-time, so we're going to give it to this guy's name was Chris. We're going to give it to Chris, but I've got this other job, this industrial pretreatment superintendent job that goes to all these factories and organizations in the county that have pollutants, and TCEQ needs us to monitor them. And, do you know anything about that? Can you do that? And being who I am, knowing absolutely nothing about it, I'm like, well, of course I can.
Yeah, I know how to do that.
Of course I can, Dean. So I came home and told my wife, who was the environmental compliance officer here for the City of Huntsville for several years, on the wastewater side mostly, but was the environmental person. And she had done the pretreatment program here, I think the first one in the state, actually, my wife wrote. So wow. that was pretty impressive for her. And anyway, so I came home and said, hey, I committed to a job that I know nothing about, and I might need a little bit of help. So she gave me some nudges, and I went down there and turned it into I actually made it in the top 5 pretreatment programs in the state. Got an award from TCEQ conference for one of the top 5 programs in the state, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of people down there helped me put that together. And I'm still friends, like I say, with all of them. They were 20-year employees of the City of Conroe doing the same thing, just doing it because they love what they do and taking care of their community. So I keep circling back to that, I think, about doing what I do just because it is what it is.
Yeah. And you're passionate. I think it's great. Again, we're talking to Bill Daugette, Walker County Commissioner, Precinct 3, and we'll get more into Walker County here in a little bit. But I think it's great because when you see Bill truly, and I'm not just saying it because you're sitting here to my right, but truly passionate about what you do. You love your job. It's evident. You live it. You breathe it. And when I see the white truck with Precinct 3 driving around, I always see a guy in there smiling.
I do that. It's, you read the books, and the books say, nobody should really know how you feel about them physically or what kind of mood you're in. And I had a guy tell me one time, and I still kind of live by this. If you're in your living room and you had the worst day, and you beat your kids and sent them to bed without dinner, and you threw your wife out in the backyard, and you're just this bear, but your super best friend or maybe a parent you hadn't seen in 20 years came and knocked on the door and came in, what would you do? You'd stand up and smiling and give them a big old hug. So at any moment, you can turn off whatever's inside of you and become this a happy person. You know, you can I'm going to choose to be in a good mood now. I'm going to choose to be smiling, happy, embracing, loving. And so I live on that world a lot. You know, I'm kind of like, yeah, you know, every 2 weeks, Monday at my commissioner's court, sometimes it's pretty tough in there. I lose a lot of votes 4-1. But you're like, okay, you go on to the next thing now. And a lot of, you know, so I don't stay angry long, and I don't hold grudges. You're just like, hey, that was 5 seconds ago. And I'll go back to my good mood and push forward, and hopefully the world will come with me.
Say thank the good Lord for parliamentary process, and hopefully people remain professional and you keep on trucking, right?
I do love that parliamentary process because it can be brutal up there. You know, I don't do things quietly. When I get in any organization and I see something that I think needs to be done, I bring that idea to the front, and I'll march it out there and say, this is what I think. And the cool thing about our process is if 2 other people agree with me, we go do it. And that's a good day for me. If 2 or 3 other people say, yeah, I don't think we're ready for that yet, or I hate it, then you go on to the next thing. And you can get, you know, wrapped up in it and let it stress you out or whatever, or you can realize that, hey, I'll be back in 2 weeks with another idea, and let's go do that one. So
yeah, you just keep the chain churning and keep it going.
That's all you can do. All you can do. And you know, I'm a politician by definition, but I'm the world's worst politician. You know, I am absolutely the world's worst politician. I'm just a guy, you know, that just does what he loves and hopes people get on board with him and helps me. My little slogan is make Walker County a little bit better each day.
Love that.
And that's just what I do. And if I can get people to do it with me, that's fine. If not, I'll slug it out by myself until I convince people it's a good idea and they want to come with me on it.
Well, that's what we're trying to do here on Good Morning Huntsville, is make our community better just a little bit each day. We'll step aside, take a break, still have some more Bill's bio to dig through, and then we're going to talk about what's going on in Walker County and get you updated and how that affects Huntsville and surrounding communities. All that and more. Keep those comments coming. A lot of them coming in this morning. We'll flash those up on the screen as well, but we'll be back here within 30 seconds to a minute. Stay with us. This is Good Morning Huntsville. We're broadcasting live on the beautiful downtown square in our studio, sponsored by Elliott's Jewelers. Welcome back here on Good Morning Huntsville. Thanks for joining us. Rob Hipp alongside Bill Daugette, our Walker County Commissioner, Precinct 3, as we continue on. Again, thanks for everybody joining us, waking up with us this morning. A lot of folks joining us. Don Martinez saying good morning, Bill Daugette. So he's chiming in.
That's my brother Don right there.
All right.
Me and him, we have breakfast a couple times a month. Talk about everything that's good with the county and the city, and a lot of time on what's not good. And if you want to know the black and white of a situation, Don Martinez will give it to you right square in the eyes.
All right, Don, he's putting you on the spot, so you may start getting comments, from folks wanting to know what's up. But no, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Brenda as well chiming in, and several friends also. Unfortunately, we can't show their name because they're coming in through the Huntsville, Texas News and Events group, which is okay, but they're saying Good Morning Huntsville as well. So keep those comments coming. Let us know what you're thankful for today.
Yep.
This show is all about lifting up our community and the great things happening here in Huntsville and throughout our wonderful county as well. Bill, I wanted to dig in a little bit too. You had alluded to this earlier, and I promise we are going to get into Walker County. I'm not delaying it. But you went to Sam Houston State University. You talked about that. Graduated in 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
I did.
You know, the university has such a tremendous impact on this community, not just here in Huntsville, but throughout the county. I mean, what really inspired you to go to Sam, and what was that experience like for you?
You know, when I was at the city, we had, especially at the director level or at the operations manager level before that, we had a lot of projects come in, and we would bring in engineers that wanted to do plans and developments and stuff like that. And by that time, I had been doing the work for 20 years or better. I'd been doing the water, the sewer, the streets, the drainage, the sidewalk. I'd been actually, boots on the ground, swinging a hammer all the way up to this level. So these 23-year-old kids, and no disrespect to them, but a 23-year-old brand new engineer would roll these plans out and say, well, this, that, this. And I'd be like, well, I've seen this and it doesn't work. I've seen that, and we should have two of those, kind of a deal. And they would do what I called, and I don't mean this once again disrespectful, they would, they'd tap that Aggie ring on the table like, hey, I'm a PE and you're not, so know your role. And I was like, so I told my wife when I left the city, I was like, look, it means nothing to anybody but me, but I'm going to go get my degree at Sam Houston State University. And so I went back and got a degree in, I knew I was going to stay in government. So I got a degree in political science, and my minor was actually finance. And I was the first person at Sam Houston to have that combination.
Wow.
They had to build the degree program.
They called it Build for Bill, right?
They should have. They should. I need to get a hold of those people and talk with that. I'm good friends with Dr. White up there. Maybe I can make that happen. But, I met, I guess I don't know if I'd known him before, but Mike Yon. Mike, he was a super mentor up there and helped me through all that. And I did 90 hours in 32 months.
Wow.
And graduated summa cum laude from Sam Houston. That's still a banner I hold over my children who have all gone through college, all got their degrees, and two are working on their masters now. And they tell me all this fabulous stuff. I'm like, so did you make summa cum laude?
I love it, Bill.
Yeah, and they're like, well, I was cum laude. Like, oh man, you're almost there. So it meant a lot to me personally. Whether it benefited my career or not, I would doubt that it did that. But it was a validation to me that basically that I knew what I was talking about.
Sure.
And it was funny when I first went there. I was the creepy old guy in the back. I was the 50-year-old guy in a room full of 20-year-olds. But the other students found out, like, this guy's lived through all this stuff they're trying to teach us, so let's go hang out. So it got to be like, hey, Mr. Daugette, can I be on your team? Can I be on your committee? Can I be on your group on this project? And I met some fun folks.
They were calling you Mr. Daugette.
Oh yeah,
I'm
Mr. Daugette.
I love it, man.
Yeah, it was great. So it's funny. I'm still friends with a couple of people that I went to school with.
Did you get invited to any Friday night keggers?
I did not, and probably my biggest disappointment. I say this kind of facetiously, but it was kind of true. My wife wouldn't let me go to Cancun on spring break either. I was like, people want me to go. I want to go. And she's like, you do not get to go. So it was great. I'm like, really, and my kids went, they got to go to spring break in Cancun or Cozumel or wherever the heck the guys go. And I was like, I really felt like I missed an important part of the college experience.
Yeah,
I
did get that experience.
But I loved it up there. And like I said, I'm still friends with fellow students. I'm still friends with a couple of the professors, Mike Yon, Professor James, my astronomy professor. I just fell in love with the astronomy part too. That was fun up there. That was kind of my fun side, was that piece. But Renee James, Dr. Renee James, she reminded me one time, so I need to be sure to remember to say that. But awesome lady, and so it was great to go do it, and I think I appreciated it more at 50 years old than I would have at 20 or 19 or whatever like that. And I felt like I had accomplished more when I came out the backside of it. So it's an awesome organization, and they just continue to get more awesome up there at Sam. It's great up there.
And it is one of the largest employers here in Huntsville and throughout the area, of course, alongside TDCJ. But the university provides such a beneficial economic impact, too. And it's neat for you because not only did you go there and a little bit later on, in life as you continued your journey, but you're also serving in public office now, so you can kind of see how the mold of the university has really benefited this community.
It has. It's one thing we struggle with here in the city, in the region up here, is I guess for lack of a better term, the companion job, the spouse job. We have a lot of professors that don't live here, that drive in from the Woodlands or Conroe or North Houston even, or I remember I had one drove in from Humboldt every day. And it's just because some were men and some were women, but their spouse, there wasn't a job for them up here in Huntsville. They weren't in the education field. And we don't, and we still don't. And one thing we struggle, we'll kind of segue into some county and maybe even some city stuff here. We don't have that, we don't have a good workplace base for that kind of stuff. For a professional, like a college professor, is generally going to be married to a person kind of similar, and so they're going to want a professional job someplace, and we kind of struggle for that here. We don't have we don't have a big smoking factory, that puts out cars or something like that has upper level management positions of any kind of scale. So we struggle with that part of it. But Sam Houston has brought so much to our community that I'm hoping that we start seeing some of that stuff up here. We see, I'll segue another way. I'm on the City of Huntsville Airport Advisory Board.
I was just about to mention the runway expand. We talked about that at Rotary last week.
Yeah, and that was a great presentation by Greg Smith. I serve on that Airport Advisory Board at the City of Huntsville, and I appreciate them letting me come and being the county representative, more of a listening post and an idea maker, because I can't make any county promises or anything like that to them, but I kind of give them ideas, and it lets me see what they're talking about.
Sure.
And another 1,000 feet on our runway here, I think it could change the world in Huntsville and Walker County. I was here when Greg was talking about City of Conroe Airport being basically a grass field, with like hay land over there, to what it is today. This, like kind of a mini hobby airport almost, with all these gobs of airplanes and jets and stuff like that. And another 1,000 feet would allow those jets to come up here. A lot of those people live up here or work up here or own property up here, and they want their jets and their businesses up here. And that's a huge tax revenue that they're paying Conroe right now that they could pay us here, and bring businesses up here that they could fly into.
When you think about from here all the way up 45 to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's really nothing that could service that. So this could be maybe even a small hub for the DFW community to the south.
It could be, and we are the first airport, and I'm not much of an airport guy. We are the first airport out of the intercontinental little security circle that if the Conroe is inside of that. So you have to have certain flight capabilities to land at Conroe, and you won't have to have those to land here at Huntsville. So a lot of small pilots especially prefer to fly and land here because of not being able to land in Conroe. But, just to do some random, like HP or Exxon or somebody like that that's looking for a nice new headquarters building or something, if they can fly at the airport and catch a little Uber to their fancy building right over there, that's how things start changing. That's what 100%. It takes. It takes somebody to go first and invest in something, and that's what my discussion at the airport board is, and Greg's 100% on board with it. He is so much fun to sit next to, Greg Smith. He is so much fun because he is neck deep in his love for flying, and he knows what it can bring to the city and the county. And it's fun to sit over there and keep pushing the city. And to the city's credit, they created an airport manager, who's part-time right now. But Lane has hit the ground running. I don't think he was much of an airport guy, but he's a sharp young man and has taken some of our ideas and he's added to them. And he has taken kind of the vision and the dream that we as that committee have put in place and started putting some physical work behind it. So watching that, I think that's as much fun as anything I'm working on right now. Is hopefully we can make something happen over there. In fact, I'm going down tomorrow night to Galveston. They're having some sort of municipal airport convention in Galveston, and City of Huntsville Airport is getting an award tomorrow night. They can't tell us what it is, but we're getting something. So we're going to ride down there tomorrow and go see that. But I think good things are happening out there. It benefits the city of Huntsville, which means it benefits Walker County. And that's my interest is, hey, how can it help me in the whole county? But I'm glad the city has started to invest in it. And I think there's a good committee in place. There's some strength on the city pushing it. So I'm looking forward to that.
We have Bill Daugette again here this morning. Thanks for joining us on Good Morning Huntsville and throughout our portal on HelloHuntsvilleTX.com. I'm Rob Hipp alongside Bill. Appreciate him being here. We'll step aside. We'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll dig more into just that commissioner role and more things that you're entailing. We'll talk about some of the positives happening in the community and some of the setbacks and some things that you guys are working on. So we'll mention that as well, some of the challenges, but a lot more to come here in our final segment. Stay with us and keep those comments coming. We'd love to hear from you as we continue it here on Good Morning Huntsville. We'll be right back. Welcome back here on Good Morning Huntsville. I'm Rob Hipp alongside our County Commissioner Bill Daugette. I promise if you saw I wasn't giving Bill a hug. We were just throwing the wire behind the chair there. But hey, man, it's always good to give good people in Huntsville a good hug. So
why not?
First time I saw you, I came up and gave you a hug. So
yes.
It's good to be back here and appreciate everybody joining us here this morning as we're continuing to bring you the news about Huntsville and Walker County. Bill's got a little bit more time to spend with us here, and I appreciate it. Normally these segments only about 15 to 20 minutes, but wanted to have Bill in today and just kind of give us a general overview of how he got to Huntsville and all the great things that he's been able to accomplish and just learn a lot more. And I'll be honest, Bill, there's a lot of things that I've learned so far today that I didn't know about you. So it's great to catch up with you and hear those things.
This has been a great morning, so we should do it more often.
Yeah, we'll have you in about once a month and kind of give us some updates on the county and everything. So
let's do it.
I did want to talk more about the county commissioner's office because maybe there's some folks out there, and even me, there's things that I still don't know, even though I've talked to you several times over the past 4 or 5 years. But you were one of 4 commissioners.
Yes.
26 years. We talked about that earlier that you spent with the City of Huntsville.
Yes.
But then being elected as county commissioner at Precinct 3, managing the budget is what the commissioners do and oversee. Get this. This is why you need to be nice to your commissioners. Not only managing the budget. Everybody say, okay, well, you always people manage the budget. But here's the deal. Oversee 600 miles of road and infrastructure across the county. There are 600 miles of road across this county.
There are, and we're adding more all the time with the developments that are coming in. And that's actually one thing we're I hate to use the word struggling with it, but we're starting to discuss it at the commissioner level is what are we going to do with these roads? Because they're nice when they're new, but 10 years from now, they won't be new. And the cost of repaving a road, rebuilding a road, and maintaining roads is amazingly expensive. And there's an old adage in government that says basically you go broke just adding rooftops. If all you do is add houses, you don't generate enough tax to take care of the infrastructure that those houses demand. Not just road and drainage infrastructure, but security infrastructure, the sheriff's department, the EMS service, the planning and stuff like that. You can't without driving taxes up. You can't support that. So that's one thing. I talk about more a business or some kind of industry coming up here, the big retail centers that helps you pay for those. So we do have 600 miles, probably 460 of them, maybe 500 need help, need work, but it's, if we were to tell the people, well, gosh, we need to go up 20 cents on your taxes so we can go pave all these roads, none of us would have a job and the road still wouldn't be paved.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge for us is the balance of what can I what can I go to my people to and say, hey, I've got to have this much money so we can at least handle this. It's a level of service question that we have to struggle with at the commissioner's court, and then get that message out to the people. And for the most part, I think we do okay on that. We stumble every now and then and have some debates with folks as to whether we're charging the correct amount, too high or whatever. But for the most part, I think we do okay with that here. But yeah, it is 600 miles, and it's a heck of a lot of work.
If there was someone in the county, watching or going back and listening to this on the audio podcast format that says, I don't live within the city, how can the county help me with my situation? Maybe they've got a road that's kind of damaged or something's going on, or they don't know how to reach out. I mean, what is kind of the ideal person that would reach out to a commissioner such as yourself or to the county?
Really, it's just anybody that asks me. My cell phone number is 936-661-5176.
Wow.
And
you're giving out a cell phone number.
I do, and I give it to everybody. And I tell them, and my wife will attest to this, I don't go anywhere without my phone. In fact, my phone's on my watch, like everybody's is nowadays. And you call me, you text me, and if you're in my precinct, I'll probably come visit with you. If you're not in my precinct, I'll be sure that I contact your commissioner. And then I'll follow back up with you and make sure that commissioner got a hold of you, and then that you were satisfied with that, with the conversation. You may not be happy with it, but maybe you're at least satisfied that you were answering one way or another. So like I say, it goes back to why I do what I do. I just I made that person's day a little bit better. They called me and said, hey, I got a problem, and I may not be able to solve it, but they got to talk to the person who has the answer. I'll see you in 10 years when you're on the paving list is not generally a very favorable response, but at least they get an answer.
Sure.
So that's the number, 661-5176.
If there's someone, within the Huntsville within the city limits, that's not your jurisdiction, right? Or do people still reach out to you?
Oh, absolutely. A vast majority of my calls come from inside the Huntsville city limits. And I will do, if you live in the city, you live in the county, So to me, they are just as important as the guy who lives on the Trinity River out there. They got a problem, they got a question, because I'm good friends with Aaron at the City of Huntsville and the mayor and a bunch of city council members. In fact, I know just about all of them. And I've got all their phone numbers. They were silly enough to let me have their phone numbers. So if somebody gets a hold of me, I generally don't give their numbers out to a person that's calling me.
Sure.
But I will get a hold of them and then, like I say, and then get back with them. So, and my wife has this thing, and I quote my wife a lot, bless her heart. She's my reality check. She'll tell me, you can't fix everything. You can't fix that. You can't help them with that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try. I'm going to give it a shot. And, a lot of times it keeps me up late, or it keeps me up at night, or I work 7 days a week for the most part. And, but the folks know that I'm trying, and I might be the only person they call. So they're my 60th phone call that day, but to them, I'm their one. And I got to treat them that way, like they're my one. So that's the world I live in.
Bill, the county government structure is kind of unique in the fact that I believe it's 22 elected officials that make up the county government, and they don't answer to anybody except the voters, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
kind of describe that process a little bit more and how that works.
It was a culture shock for me, because I kind of knew, but you don't know until you come over here. I'll use the city as an example. You have a city manager. The mayor and council hires a manager, and then the manager is over everybody, a nice pyramid-shaped scheme over there. And the city manager might walk in and say, budget's going to be tight this year. I need everybody to cut their spending by 20%. And then you, as a director, can you say, well, gosh, I can't do that. And then the city manager can say, well, I can find a director who can. And then you get to make a decision at that particular time, whether you go find 20% or you go somewhere else. Well, at the county, with 22 elected officials, have their 22 different offices, and you depend on your personal relationship with that other department, that other elected official, to keep things moving forward. So I've had people call me and tell me, hey, I'm not happy with your answer. I'm going to call the county judge. And I'm like, you're fine. Absolutely. At that time it was Danny Pierce and now it's Colt Christian. I'm like, call and he'll have a great conversation with you and hopefully he can answer your question. But you're talking to the guy here that is going to eventually make the final decision. So let's get as far as we can. And then they'll call the judge, and the judge would call me and say, hey, did you talk to Mr. Smith? And I'd be like, yep.
Yeah, I told him to call you.
Yep. And so I think Colt Christian would be a great guest for you in the future too. And I think that's one of the frustrations he's had as he's come in and from the outside private enterprise world, where you can make that call and go into a person's office and say, hey, I really think it should be blue instead of black. And that department head, myself and others can say, I really like the black, and I appreciate your input, but I'm going to keep doing it black over here.
Yeah.
So that's, you have to, there's a lot more team building over here and a lot more cooperation with other department heads. And you have to sell your idea and sell your program, which is not a bad thing. And convince the other people to come along with you, or it just doesn't happen. So that can be frustrating, but it also changes the way you approach things. You go more to a kind of a prescriptive narrative of like, hey, this is why it's awesome. You should do this with me, versus do this or go home. And I kind of like this over here. There's an autonomy to it, but a responsibility to know my idea needs to be accepted by everybody else in the organization for it to be, workable.
We're talking to Bill Daugette this morning here on Good Morning Huntsville in our studio downtown, sponsored by Elliott's Jewelers. Appreciate everybody being a part of the show this morning as we continue to talk about Walker County. Have about 14 minutes remaining or so. Wow. And we're just flying through this morning. But Bill, I also wanted to highlight, some of the challenges. You talk about there is a lot of good things. We always highlight that, but there are challenges. You can't ignore them. We all know that the cost of everything is rising. I mean, I go to the grocery store and buy diapers, and I'm like, man, can we just take HEB sacks and use those as the handles and put put paper towels in the bottom? No, it doesn't work that way. You got to buy diapers. You got to work.
You do.
Reduced funding from the state. There's you mentioned earlier with budget cuts and everyone is losing funds, and then there's more responsibility that's passed down to the counties from the state, and people are sensitive to their tax rates. I kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to touch on some of those subjects.
They are, and the state back years ago used to carry a big load of the expenses of the state that involved kind of the big picture. School districts, I'm not a school district person, but I'm familiar with what they do. The state used to pay for about 75-80% of a kid going to school through your property taxes that you paid to the state, and they allocated out to the local districts, and they paid about 75 to 80%. Well, as they cut their budget, because they don't want to, not property taxes, sales tax going to the state, sorry about that. They didn't want to have to raise sales tax to pay for that. They just looked at the school districts and said, well, we can't fund as much as we did the year before. So they've tumbled all the way down into the high 30s% now. And then they looked at the districts to say, y'all need to raise the rest. And so the districts become the bad guy. Now they have to go to the people and say, we got to have X amount of money this year. And sorry, so generally on your property tax bill, your school district is your highest note. It's about $1.60 or something like that right now. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's way up there. But that's a lot of times is because the state cut that back. And at the county level, the cost of an indigent defense, a person who can't defend himself, used to be covered by the state at 100%. Now it's maybe 30-40% of that. And we've seen our cost go from less than $100,000 about 7-8 years ago to over $400,000 paying for that. And then indigent care, where we buy prescriptions for inmates that are in, we have to pay for those. That's been pushed down to the state. There was one more that we those two have been really big ones. And so now I watch this year's legislature. We're going to lower property taxes. We're going to do some stuff. We had this budget surplus, and we're going to lower these property taxes and push them down to y'all. Well, that's going to be exclusively at the school district level. It won't be anywhere else because they don't touch us anywhere else. It's going to be school district, and they're going to say, all right, school districts, we're going to give you X amount of money. You should be able to lower your tax rate X dollars. So they'll hopefully we do. And I think our school district trade knows, and they do a good job over there. So I think they'll be responsible and they'll lower us down over there. But it doesn't say in 2 years from now, when maybe this big surplus we have goes away, they don't look back and say, oh, by the way, you remember that money we gave you? Well, we need half of it back. And we start creeping it up. So the state continuously sheds responsibilities to the local entities and expects the local entities to pick up the note. And then recently, they've been putting a lot of restrictions on our budget, limiting how much we can actually increase our own budget to pay for the expenses that they push down to us. So it's really, that's the most frustrating thing right now. The thing that's working for us in Walker County is that our growth is really pushing our revenues up. We're able to, even though we're lowering the tax rate, when I took office in 2016, our tax rate was 61 cents at the county level, just for the county itself. And now we're at 44. So we've come down almost 25% in the actual rate. And then the rebuttal to that is, well, I'm paying more now because you guys increased the value of my property, so I'm paying more. So I always use myself as an example on the tax rate, and we've lived in my house for 30 years. So I look back at like 2016, and I paid at that time $1,400 in property taxes on my house. Well, we've lowered our tax rate from 61 cents down to the current 44, and this last year I think I paid right at $1,500 a year.
That's not bad if you think about a 30-year transition of only $100 more.
Yeah, $100 a year more, and if you roll inflation into that, we're probably behind. Is what
I was about to say. Yeah, when you think of inflation, you're behind.
Is what we should be paying. So we can't make everybody happy with that. In fact, everybody hates property taxes, but at the end of the day, it's what they've given us. To fund to fund what we do. And at the county level, about 80% of what we do at the county level is criminal justice related. That's the stuff that, people want the bad guys in jail, and they want the sheriff to be at their front door when they call, and they want that ambulance to show up when somebody's not doing well, and that costs money. And so we raise revenues here with either a fee for a particular service like planning and development permit, or a sales tax that we get a half a cent on, or property taxes. That's our three sources of revenue. So we do what we can with them. We historically have always lowered the tax rate since I think since 2012 they've lowered it every single year. So even before I got here, to give previous courts credit, they've lowered it every year and keeping our revenue about the same. But when you add 100 or 200 homes in a year, paying that tax rate, it's helped us to at least kind of sort of see where we're supposed to be. We're not there yet, but we can kind of sort of see the level of service that we want to provide and that I think the people would love to have.
You brought up a good point earlier, Bill, when we were off mic and you and I were talking, and I kind of talk about a community when it grows so fast that there's an established culture. And I'll backtrack. When you think of Huntsville, there's an established culture here, and it's a great community. We know that it's people help you out. I'm not joking with this. I eat more fast food than I should. And everyone that I always go through, and I'm going to tell you this morning, don't give anyone at a fast food line a hard time. Please don't. Even if they're not the most nicest people, look, don't ever, just tell those folks how much you appreciate them. Right. I will say this. There's a McDonald's on, I think it's Sam Houston Avenue out here.
Yep.
That I go to quite a bit in the mornings. And there's two ladies that work there. They're always so nice and so thankful. And when I roll through those lines, they're, hey, how you doing? One of them even calls me sugar. One lady calls me baby. I'm like, whoa, Bridget, I promise there's nothing, nothing there. But they're just nice. They're nice ladies
folks.
that work. They're very nice folks. And so
that's right.
I think when you think about this community, you think about those things and how nice and how genuine people are. And that's something to really think about in a positive way, because there's some places that you go when you cruise through a line like that, not everybody's nice. You still need to be nice to them.
Yep.
But that's something I've noticed. You drive through these areas and say thank you, and people say you're welcome. They respond with you're welcome. So when I go back and think about the culture, that's kind of the culture to me to Huntsville, is just the genuine hospitality that people have in this community. It's what drew us back here. Whenever we were blessed to be in Fargo, and an incredible opportunity there at the time. The financial aspect of it was exactly what Bridget and I needed for our new baby, and that got us through a season. We wanted to be there longer, but we just felt like, hey, this is home. This is where family is. My mother's getting older. We wanted to be able to travel and see her. Brother's having a baby, on and on. But that's the culture of Huntsville. It's good people that make up a great community, great people that make up a great community.
It is.
But I think, too, you got to be careful because when a community starts growing so fast, and we know the proximity to Houston and Conroe and how it's growing, you don't want to lose that culture.
Right.
And I just kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to highlight that a little bit because I think it's important. And I think growth is a great thing. This is what we were talking about off air before we went on. Growth is good. But it has to be done in a way, in my opinion, that manages the existing culture and keeps that intact. You don't want your culture to be overran. You want it to be embraced.
That's true, and I serve with Ronnie White. He's another commissioner up there. And he's a rancher, second, third generation rancher. And he's very sensitive to our agricultural land getting bought up and being cut up and sold into these little 5-acre ranchettes, and the ag part of it going away. He's often said, if we don't raise the food, who's going to feed you? And he truly believes that, and I respect that out of him. That's his viewpoint, and I agree with him on that. It's kind of hard to see, and we're seeing some of the older tracts from the historic families in their fourth or fifth generation. The kids now are not as interested in being in the ranch industry, so they're selling some property off that historically may not have been sold off. So we're seeing that happen. We're seeing neighborhoods go into, in what used to be woods, a lot of forest cut down, and which is, once again, it's good for us because it drives revenue for us up here, and people get to come live where we've loved to live for 43 years now. And
good math.
Good
quick math.
That was good fast, wasn't it? So it's great to watch them come up here, but trouble comes with that too. We see increases in drugs coming up here. The sheriff will tell you pretty quickly that we're dealing with a lot more drug situations. We see theft, and we see violence, and in fact, I serve on the Safe House board here in Walker County also, and the number of people that go there looking for help is increasing. So how we keep that in check while we manage this growth is it's going to be a challenge for us. You can't stop them; they're coming, and it's awesome that they're coming. I think it's great that we're growing like we are. It's up to us at the court level to figure out how we're going to make it welcoming without inviting, for lack of a better way to say it, elements that we don't want here. But then that's mostly on the criminal side, not any sort of group of people, but just on the criminal side. We don't want that coming up here. We know it's coming. You look at Harris County and Houston, and you see what they deal with down there. And Montgomery County's feeling it. My friends down there tell me quite a bit. Hey, we're seeing increases in all this, and we're starting to see that up here. We had a piece of county equipment come up missing over the weekend. That back in the olden days you could just park it out there and be fine, but we had one that somebody evidently needed more than we did, and they took it somewhere.
Yeah, they just borrowed it. They're going to bring it back.
I'm sure it's coming back. That's how we are out here, Take it if you need it. Just bring it back.
But you're right, though. It does happen. And when communities grow, there are a lot of unfortunate situations that occur, and crime does increase. I will say this, though, and just as someone who's came back to this community, love the people here. And this is an area that Bridget and I feel extremely safe to live in, to be a part in, the community. But with growth, those things do tend to happen. But I can say that, from someone who's has a little girl and has another kiddo on the way, we feel very safe and secure here in Huntsville and Walker County.
It's as good as you can get here. We have inside the city an awesome police force. That's if you don't go too many streets without seeing one. In the county, we've got deputies. We don't have as many as we need to have, and I think we're going to see that in this year's budget. Is that just based on call volume that we're going to have to look at expanding them. We have constables who know their neighborhoods. They serve a precinct. They know their neighborhood. They know the people. And I would invite people in the county to get to know your constable. Every one of them, I guarantee you, will give you their personal phone number. And if you have a question, you can call them, and they know who lives 2 streets over and stuff like that, and they can help you with that. And it's just it's just a great place to be. here. And we'll deal with the struggles, but I think we got the right people in place to deal with those struggles. And like I said before, if somebody's struggling with really any kind of county question, they're welcome to call me. And if I can't answer it, I'll shoot it to the person that can.
We appreciate that, Bill. Always connected, always being an integral part of this community. As we wrap up here in just a few moments, great opportunities for work here.
Did we do an hour?
We did. We did an hour.
Wow.
So, we hit the mark, Bill. But
that's crazy.
Great opportunities for folks to work here. TDCJ, it does a great job employing folks, and that's a benefit. Sam Houston State, there's other businesses coming to town.
Yep. Do you know?
A lot of good things happening.
TDCJ and Sam Houston State, we hear a lot of comments, and this may have to be a closing one because I know we're getting near the end here.
That's all right.
We hear a lot of comments about, gosh, so much tax-exempt property in the county and stuff like that. TDCJ, their payroll is about, just in Walker County, about $18 to $20 million a month that those employees make that live and work here. And they shop at our stores, and they eat at our restaurants, and they buy stuff, and they come to the festivals and stuff like that. So we don't get, if they're living in a dorm or something like that, or live on unit or even live on campus or whatever, we don't get the property tax for that. But $20 million a month is a significant amount of money.
I'll just take 1% of that, please.
Absolutely right. And the kind of the financial people and the tell a dollar spent locally might turn over 4 or 5 times here. By the time you pay this guy, then he pays his employee, then they go shop and they pay that employee. So they make a huge financial impact. So people talk to me about TDC this and Sam Houston that, and they're buying up property and taking it off the tax rolls. And I'm like, okay, last year we got $4,000 in property tax off that particular piece of property. Now I'm going to put 6 people in it that are making $50,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year, and they're going to move here and they're going to live here.
They're going to spend more than that property tax is going to generate and provide, and that's a good point that you have to look at, Bill.
You do, and so they're good neighbors to us. They're there when we need them. I could call Dr. White tomorrow, or I could call her now, and she could probably answer the phone. And folks at TDCJ, generally you can drop them an email. They're too busy most time to answer the phone, but you can send them an email and say, hey, could you talk to me about this? And somebody will get back with me and talk to me about that. So it's a good relationship. We're starting to kind of play in the same sandbox again, as we all struggle with the same problems. And we realize that partnering up will help everybody in general. But I just kind of wanted to mention that when you talk about Sam Houston and TDCJ, about what an awesome part, an integral part of not just our community, but our economics of our community that they actually are.
And one thing that I've really seen here, maybe there was some disconnects early on with certain organizations or the city and the university and maybe even TDCJ. But what I've really seen from an outsider looking in and now being part of this community and blessed to be here, because these organizations actually work very well together. And the city is doing great things to promote the university.
Yep.
The university is promoting the city. TDCJ gets involved. And so if you're waking up this morning and maybe you're in an attitude of just like, man, I'm just, I'm not feeling great today. I'm bummed out about this organization not helping this organization. Don't think like that, because I can tell you firsthand that there are people that are working together.
Absolutely.
There are decision makers in this community that want to see everybody be an integral part of the success of Huntsville.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of my encouragement this morning is, maybe if you're down and out about something, figure out a way to be part of the solution. You always hear be part of the solution, not the problem.
Right.
Have that attitude knowing that things are happening. And if you don't see things happening, get involved. Get out, get involved. People want to talk. That's why I love Huntsville.
Absolutely.
Whenever I ask you, hey, Bill, you're like, man, I love talking shop. Let's go.
I do. That's exactly what I say. I love talking shop.
And I guarantee I could go to some counties and the commissioner's not going to give me the time of day. And that's okay, because they're busy. And you're busy. You got 600 miles of road, and that's just 0.5% of the things that you've got to deal with.
That's true. That is true. But you know what? I wake up every day just digging it. I just think it's so much fun to do. It keeps you, whether you look old or whatever, you still feel young, because you're like, hey, I'm out and making the world a better place. And like we started off with, making Walker County a little bit better every day.
That's it. Making it better a little bit every day. And the folks that are watching this program, we appreciate you and your attitude. Hey, you make this community a little bit greater every day. Great to catch up with you. Next time we'll have you on, maybe we'll talk about what's in the pipeline, what's coming to people are wanting to know. Where's Costco, man? When is it coming to this area? Where's Costco at? Where's Sam's Club? Those kind of things.
All those things, and the rumored Texas Roadhouse and stuff like that. So let's visit again.
And we're going to work on that, by the way, on HelloHuntsvilleTX.com. That's one of the sections that we are going to work on is what's coming to this community. And as we continue to kind of get re-ingrained here in Huntsville, we'll be putting that content up on the website. So make sure you visit HelloHuntsvilleTX.com. We'll be here with this show every single weekday, Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m., sponsored by Elliott's Jewelers. We're also working on some new programs as well, so you'll be able to keep up to date with all things good in Huntsville.
There you go. Maybe 8:15 if I show back.
That's right. Well, we got started at 7:15, so we're good. You know, we have to make up the full hour. Once again, Bill Daugette, appreciate you being here, my friend.
Rob, I've had a great time. And like I said before we went on air, to use your terminology there, it's just awesome to visit with you. You're an uplifting kind of guy. You know, your closing comment is reach out to somebody, give them a lift. You know, help somebody else up. Point him in the right direction. I had a former boss of mine who I love dearly, who had the little plate on his desk, and I think he got it from President Truman, had the same thing, or somebody like that. Anyway, you know, there's no limit to what a person can do if he doesn't care who gets the credit. And I just kind of live by that, you know, and you kind of do the same thing. You're like, hey, let's help all these people. Let's get ideas out. Let's get things going. And at the end, we all benefit. And, you know, if you get a medal for it, that's awesome. But if somebody else gets 2 medals, that's even better.
That's even better. That's right. Celebrate the victories in other people's lives. And
Absolutely.
You will see great things happen.
Absolutely.
Again, Bill Daugette, our county commissioner. Man, I wish we had a studio audience because I think you'd get a standing round of applause today. But that'll wrap it up here this morning. Tomorrow, we will be live from Farmhouse. Is it Farmhouse? So, yeah, the Farmhouse Cafe.
Right. Yep.
For the Huntsville Walker County Chamber breakfast. We'll be there. Garrick Long will be joining us alongside Ray Hernandez as well, talking about the chamber and HLI Class 41. They have just built a new stage there at Rather Park.
I hear
that's the show.
I hear that's the second best class ever behind Class 24 that I happen to be a part of.
Well, they're giving away free beer at this grand opening for the stage. So they're trying to elevate themselves to the absolute best.
They might be a close second then. I mean, a real close second, closer than others. I've had others get closer, but not quite there.
That's right. Well,
hey, I got a friend coming next week here, Jamie Wilder.
Okay.
I think she's going to talk about muscular dystrophy
or
multiple sclerosis, MS. She's going to talk about MS. She told me she's a little nervous. I told her you're an awesome guy and you're going to help her out. So she's looking forward to being here, too.
Right, well, thanks for the pressure. Appreciate that. So we'll have Jamie on. She was joining us. So join us back again bright and early tomorrow. We'll be on the road show. We'll be there at Farmhouse Cafe. So come out and join us. Be a part of the chamber as well. They do great work. And you can catch this show again every single weekday, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And we are live, as always, from our beautiful studio here in downtown, sponsored by Elliott's Jewelers. Friends, as I end every single broadcast, I want to remind you this morning that we're not strong enough alone to make it on our own. We truly need each other. Provide a word of encouragement. Lend a hand of support. Somebody out there needs you. Until tomorrow morning, good morning, Huntsville, and God bless. We'll see you bright and early back here tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.